a moment when leadership roles on the left are wide open. Progressives, Bernie Sanders and AOC, spoke to tens of thousands of people to rallies in Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado. Let's take a look. Yes, they did.
Are you all ready to take our country back? We're gonna throw these bums out and fight for the nation we deserve. Thank you. This isn't just about Republicans either. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us too.
But yesterday, Bernie told Jonathan Karl he's not ready to talk about future party planning yet. Take a look.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
No, I asked you.
Okay.
You know, you want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
No, fine, but I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I was just going to ask you one more question about you. I mean, that's all. I was literally your last.
What is your question?
Are we going to see you run again, or what's your future?
No, right now, I am very proud that the people of the state of Vermont sent me back to the Senate. I am 83 years of age, so, and I'm tired.
So, Bernie, AOC are out there. People are really kind of annoyed a lot about what's going on. Maybe not everything, but much more than we were seeing, perhaps in the media and on different shows. You're really floral today.
I am. It's like a spring explosion.
Okay. Yeah. It took me by surprise, I must say.
It's garden chic.
I see. When I found out yesterday. No, but people are not, they don't seem to be wanting to continue to take this. Are you getting that feeling that people are starting to get?
Absolutely.
And I've noticed it a lot, like in the last month, in the last 6 weeks. I think that when Trump first won, there was a lot of uncertainty. Now people understand, you know, you were always making this point, what they are fighting. And people are thirsty, desperate to hear somebody that gives them fire, that leads them into this fight, that channels their anger and their frustration. They want to hear from those people. That's why Bernie Sanders and AOC are getting 34,000 people to show up to a rally in Denver, 15,000 people to show up to a rally in Phoenix. I mean, think about this. They're not running. This is not an election year. This is 2 months into the Trump administration, and they are getting tens of thousands of people because people want to fight, and they want somebody that will lead them in that fight.
I completely agree with that. I mean, I was speaking with Terrence Woodbury, and for those of you who don't know him from Hit Strategies, he's a terrific strategy person. And what he was saying is people are tired of Democrats defending the system because, as I've often said, you know, the rule book is gone right now. And so they want an alternative for the pain that they are feeling. They want the pain to be acknowledged, but then they want an answer to their pain. When you look at Bernie, his answer is tax the rich, tax the rich. When you look at Obama, his plan was bipartisanship. Let's work together so that we all feel less pain. Trump's was Project 2025. This is how we're going to do it. Democrats now want to know what is the Democratic plan. And if you look at the stats, 78% of Democrats want a fighting opposition party, not a minority party. They don't want business as usual. They want a fighting opposition party, and that's the majority of the country. And I think that's why AOC and Bernie are sort of packing these things. What I will say is I don't know that the message is correct. I think that their messaging is a little bit off if you look at what people want and are looking for, because cost and economy is still number one, and taxing the rich may not do that for the majority of people. They want to see much more of an action plan. How do you address my pain? And so there you have it.
I actually generally agree with that. I'm not in the business of giving advice to Democrats, but I'm reading an excellent book right now, Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. And it's written kind of for Democrats or centrist-minded Republicans. And it talks about, they ask this fundamental question for politicians: what are you doing to help somebody with the anxiety they're facing on a random Tuesday morning? And every anxiety they're facing on a random Tuesday morning has to do with the cost of living, whether it's putting gas in their car, feeding their kids, childcare, the affordability of housing. And I think this is a really good exercise for the progressive base to get excited, to want to fight back. But you're going to need more than fight the oligarchy going after Trump and Elon Musk. Democrats, I would suggest, should do their own Project 2025. That's not platitudes. It's these are the ways we're going to bring down the cost of living, and talk about that every single day to voters. And that's how you make yourself competitive. Because just one stat, I've used this a couple of times, but I find it fascinating. If the current trends of people leaving blue states hold, by the 2030 census, the shift in the Electoral College will be so far to the right that even if a Democratic candidate won Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, every state that Kamala Harris won, they would still lose. There's a reason people are leaving blue states, and it's not because they don't like the social issues. They want LGBTQ rights. They want those things, but they want a cost of living and affordable lifestyle.
Wait, go ahead.
So I can see why people like the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders. I like even hearing the rally. I can feel myself clapping along. But the problem here is, whereas they're tapping into the anger, I don't think just screaming and kind of performative, we're going to fight, is the way to go. I want actual solutions. And that's why I like Senator Slotkin, who I keep repeating here over and over. She said, I'm a pragmatist, and I'm a pragmatist. She's from a purple state. You can't come at it just like an AOC comes from a completely blue area. Bernie Sanders, completely blue area. Alyssa Slotkin, Trump won her state. So when you're dealing with that kind of electorate and a country that's divided, I come from the school of thought is, I love to hear you shout, but I'm much more the person that says, show me what that got you. If screaming got you some kind of budget plan or a resolution or compromise, then bravo, I will be the loudest one behind you. It didn't. So I'm a more the put your heads down, unite under something, and get your messaging going.
So one thing about the red and the blue states. The one about the red and the blue states, and Terrence Woodbury does a great job about this. If you look at Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, those states have a black constituency that's larger than even Georgia, right? I'm talking Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. What we are finding, though, is in those states, the more black voting power there is, the more structural barriers there are. And so white voters become much more conservative as the number of black voters go up. So when you're seeing this sort of movement to the southern states, what you're seeing is not necessarily white voters or conservative voters. What you're seeing is black voters there losing their power to white voters and structural barriers to their voting. The other thing that I will say is, in terms of these key issues, it's what AOC and Bernie have outlined, and I think that's sort of their Project 2025, is Medicare for all, housing as a human right, justice for workers and small businesses, elevate public education, Green New Deal, women's rights, support LGBTQ plus IA rights, and also greedy corporations.
Right. So what did you have to say?
I just was going to say, I find it fascinating that everyone wants the Democrats to figure out what to do and how to do it. When we told you what was happening, we said what was coming, and people made a decision. People made a decision. And, you know, what I do love seeing is I love seeing people going and engaging themselves. There are so many Republicans that have decided not to go to engage at all. You know, and you see people and they say that the pictures are there of the Republic, but the Republicans are not there. That should tell you something. If you don't have the to come and meet the people who put you in power, then you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there. That's my town hall. I'm talking about the town halls and just all the ducking and dodging that's going on. Because people are concerned about all of the things you mentioned, but people don't like seeing their right to protest disappear. They don't like seeing when you said you're just going to pick up the bad guys and you picking up everybody and you're not sending anybody back. People don't let you know. Americans want you to fix these issues, but not the way you're doing it. They don't like the way it's happening, because that means any one of us who someone says, you look a little Spanish to me.
Or I don't like what you're saying.
Or I don't like what you're saying. Or I don't like who I think you are. These are the things that are starting to disappear. And these are the things that are not the things that they were put into power to take care of. So I like seeing
There's a
people...
lot of people who look a
there's
little
lot-
Spanish who voted for Trump who should be
Yes.
feeling a little nervous.
Well, you know, and you're probably right, but I don't wish that on anybody.
Yes.
I don't wish it on anybody.